There's a part of you you don't talk about. Not to your friends, not to your family, maybe not even to yourself. It's the voice you silence when it gets angry, the envy you feel when someone else wins, the fear you pretend isn't there when things get hard. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the dark half of your personality you've buried deep under years of pretending to be okay. But the shadow doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. In fact, it grows stronger. Every time you smile through resentment, every time you obey just to avoid conflict, every time you numb your emotions with distractions, you feed it. And one day, it spills out. Not in big dramatic ways, but in the small moments. The sarcasm that cuts too deep, the passive aggression that kills your relationships, the burnout that leaves you numb inside. You think it's bad luck, or that life is unfair. But what you're really seeing is your shadow running your life. Jung wasn't writing for soft men. He was calling out the silent epidemic. Men who've traded strength for comfort. Men who've buried their rage, their rust, their pain, until they no longer know who they are. And here's the dangerous part. The more you suppress your shadow, the more power it gains in the dark. And when it comes out, it doesn't ask for permission. Most men walk around like ticking time bombs because they've never faced themselves, never looked their darkness in the eye, never asked the hard question, what am I hiding from myself? The shadow isn't evil. It's not something to be destroyed. It's part of you, your power, your edge, your honesty. But if you don't integrate it, it will consume you. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Most choose distraction. But the man who chooses confrontation, the man who turns inward, he becomes dangerous in the best way. He becomes someone the world can't shake. This is not a motivational message. This is a warning. And in part 2, we'll break down exactly how ignoring your shadow destroys your confidence, your relationships, and your future. Think about that. Most men think avoiding their darkness keeps them safe. They bury it deep, hoping it will disappear. But shadows don't vanish, they fester. When you refuse to face your shadow, it attacks. Not like a wild beast, but in quiet, corrosive ways, slowly eroding your confidence, quietly poisoning your relationships. You might not see it at first, but it's there in the little cracks. The jealousy that eats at your friendships, the bitterness behind your smiles, the anxiety you can't explain. You try to be the nice guy, the one who always agrees, who never rocks the boat. But inside, you're dying. Because denying the shadow means denying parts of yourself. The anger, the desire, the ambition you were born with. This denial comes with a price. It drains your energy. It steals your joy. It makes you a ghost in your own life. You become a man ruled by fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of your own power. And here's the cruelest irony. The more you try to control everything, the more the shadow controls you. Because it thrives in secrecy and lies. It grows in silence and repression. The shadow doesn't just live inside you. It shapes your world, your choices, your actions, your reactions, all pulled by this unseen force. You get stuck in cycles of self-sabotage, quitting when things get tough, sabotaging relationships before they grow, letting opportunities slip through your fingers. You might blame others, the system, your luck, but the real enemy lives within. Facing the shadow means brutal honesty. Looking at your flaws, your weaknesses, your darkest thoughts, without excuses, without denial. It means owning your mistakes, accepting your anger, embracing your fears. Only then can you begin to reclaim your life. Only then can you build true confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation or approval, because when you integrate your shadow, you stop running from yourself. And you start becoming the man you were meant to be. In part 3, we'll explore how modern men wear masks of false positivity and why that's destroying them from the inside out. Think on this. The war inside you is real. but it's not over.
In today's world, many men hide behind a mask of smiles, of easy answers, of endless positivity. They tell themselves and everyone around them, "That's just how I am." But underneath, something's rotting, something's breaking. You see it everywhere. The man who laughs a little too loud, the guy who always agrees, even when he's dying inside, the one who refuses to show weakness, yet can't keep a connection alive. This mask isn't strength, it's avoidance, a way to deny the shadow without facing it. Jung warned us against this. He said that pretending you have no darkness only gives that darkness more power. It hides in the cracks you refuse to see, waiting, growing. Modern culture praises the nice guy, the agreeable man who never rocks the boat. He's polite, respectful, easy to like, but beneath that charm, a storm brews, a storm made of buried anger, unspoken fears, and silent rage. These men suppress their anger, their pain, their frustration, trying to fit into a mold that wasn't built for their soul. They fear rejection, judgment, being labeled too much, so they silence parts of themselves, the parts that need to be heard the most. The result? Emotional numbness, disconnection from themselves and others, a slow death of the spirit. Look closer. The man who refuses to argue with his partner is often the man who resents her in silence. The man who laughs off criticism is often the man who feels hollow inside. The man who drowns himself in distractions is the one who can't face his own reflection. They avoid conflict at all costs, but inside, resentment builds like a silent storm, waiting to explode in moments they can't control. The mask of false positivity is a prison. It traps men in a cycle of pretending to be happy, pretending to be strong, pretending to be okay. It keeps them safe from the chaos inside, but also safe from true growth, true connection, true freedom. And while they wear this mask, the shadow grows louder, feeding on lies and denial, growing until it demands to be seen. It whispers through anxiety. It screams through depression. It breaks through in anger that surprises even the man wearing the mask. The question is, are you willing to take the mask off? To stop hiding? To face the shadow beneath? Because true strength is not in pretending. It's in embracing your whole self, light and dark, strength and weakness. The warrior who knows his shadow is the warrior who can stand unshaken in any storm. The man who has faced his darkness is the man who commands respect without shouting, who leads not through fear or control, but through understanding himself first. This is not easy. It demands courage few possess, but it's the only way to break free from the endless cycle of falsehood. Facing your shadow is not a quick fix. It's a process, a war you fight quietly every day. But every journey begins with the first step. Step 1 is brutal honesty. Look at yourself without filters or excuses. Admit your flaws, your fears, your darkest urges. No more hiding, no more pretending. You must be willing to stand naked in front of your own truth and not look away. Step 2 is solitude. The world is noisy. Distractions are endless. But the shadow reveals itself only in silence. You must learn to be alone with your thoughts, with your anger, with your pain. Only then will you hear what your soul is trying to say. Step 3 is courage. Facing your shadow means walking into your own darkness without a weapon. It means sitting with discomfort instead of running from it. It means saying the things you fear the most, the truths you avoid in conversation, and the ones you avoid even more in the mirror. Step 4 is integration. Not rejection, not denial, but bringing all parts of yourself into the light, the good and the bad, the kind and the cruel, the strong and the weak. Because the goal isn't to eliminate your flaws, it's to make peace with them, to take ownership,
to transform your inner chaos into clarity. This integration doesn't make you perfect. It makes you whole. And wholeness is strength. No man can be truly powerful without first knowing his darkness, without wrestling with his fears, without owning his failures. This is the path of the warrior, not the warrior who wins every battle, but the warrior who never stops fighting the one within. Something changes the moment a man stops running from himself. When he no longer fears his darkness. When he chooses to own it rather than hide it. That moment is the beginning of real power. This is the turning point, not just in thought, but in identity. You're no longer a boy pretending to be a man. You become someone who has walked through fire and came out with scars instead of excuses. Owning your shadow doesn't mean acting on every dark impulse. It means knowing they exist and still choosing discipline, still choosing principle, still choosing purpose. You stop blaming. You stop explaining. You stop apologizing for being who you are. You speak less, but every word hits harder. You move slower, but with more certainty. You need less from the world, because you've already found what matters inside, and people feel it. They can't always explain it, but they know when a man has faced himself. There's something in his presence, in his silence, in his refusal to be shaken. He no longer wears masks. He no longer chases shallow validation. He no longer folds under pressure, because he has already confronted the one force that once controlled him, his own shadow. That's where real confidence comes from. Not a performance, not a posture, but alignment. A man whose internal world matches his external presence. This isn't taught in books. It's earned in solitude, in pain, in truth. You begin to walk differently, not to impress, but because you know who you are now. You begin to speak with conviction, not louder, just sharper, cleaner, undeniable. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And when you do that, when you bring your unconscious into the light, you become something rare in this world. A man who is whole, a man who is free. No longer bound by fear, no longer guided by shame, no longer stuck in loops he doesn't understand. You become the author of your life, not its victim. And that's what separates men who live fully from men who never begin. So ask yourself, have you faced what's inside, or are you still running? The answer will define everything. Think about that. You've walked through the fire, faced the shadow, stood in front of your own darkness, and didn't flinch. Most men never get this far. They run, they hide, they build lives around distraction, chasing comfort, avoiding truth. They wear masks so long they forget who they really are. But you stopped lying to yourself. You faced what was real, and something inside you changed forever. You're no longer driven by unconscious patterns, no longer stuck in the loops of self-sabotage, no longer ruled by fear, pretending to be logic. You've gained something rare, not perfection, but self-possession. Your emotions still exist, but they don't control you. Your desires still burn, but they don't blind you. You don't suppress the shadow anymore. You've trained it, integrated it, claimed it as your own. That's what separates the weak from the strong, the lost from the awakened, the boy from the man. And now, you don't just move through the world, you impact it. Your presence changes people. You don't have to say much. You don't have to prove anything. Because everything about you says, I've faced the war inside, and I'm still standing. You are no longer looking for escape. You're building, you're grounded, and you're dangerous in all the right ways. The man who has faced his shadow has nothing left to fear, because he already stood in the darkest room of his soul and chose to stay. This man doesn't run from failure. He doesn't avoid pain. He doesn't compromise his truth for approval. This man becomes a foundation, a protector, a creator, someone others trust, not because he's perfect, but because he's real. Carl Jung believed the path to wholeness was not about becoming good. It was about becoming complete, and completion requires confrontation. You don't have to conquer the world. You don't have to be the loudest, the richest, the most successful. You only have to be one thing: awake, fully conscious of what lives inside you, fully aware of who you are when no one's watching. Because once you reach that point, you stop chasing identity. You start living it. And the world begins to move around you, not the other way around. This is the power of a man who knows his shadow. This is the strength that can't be stolen. And in a world of masks, he walks uncovered. Think about that.